Hi everyone, I sure hope you're doing okay. Hey, do you guys like the Olympics? I am a huge Olympic fan, have been as long as I can remember. And I recently was at a memorial park where there was a bunch of Olympic memories from 1984 games. And the 1984 games were held in Los Angeles. And I had the privilege of buying tickets and attending the 1984 games in the Coliseum in Los Angeles. And it was wonderful. It was a memory I will cherish forever. I even have an Olympic flag and tons of fond memories of that particular game. But it got me thinking about how the athletes, whether they're Olympic athletes or not, how athletes train. And I was reminded, being at the Olympic Park yesterday, about some athletes whose names maybe you'll remember. I don't know, do you remember Greg Louganis, the great diver of the 1984 Olympics? He won 2 golds, and he was the first diver ever to get perfect 10 scores from all 7 judges. Do you remember Louganis, or are you too young? Okay. In that same Olympics was FloJo. I talked about her yesterday in my video, and she won an Olympic gold, and then in 1988 she won Olympic golds. What do these guys go through, these women go through? How do they train to be an Olympic gold medalist, or even to qualify for the Olympics? I then snapped over from Olympics to a book I read a couple years ago about David Goggins. David Goggins was a Navy SEAL, and he's considered the toughest man alive. He lives today. He has completed the Navy's, he's the only military person to have completed Navy SEAL training, Army Ranger training, and Air Force Tactical Air Controller. He currently is an ultra marathoner, and he's run hundreds of ultra marathons. And he fits into the same category. What kind of training do these guys go through? Because in my brain, they go through strict training. Well, as I was thinking about their training process and their training disciplines, of course, my brain went to the Bible. And I thought of that verse that the Apostle Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, and I'd like to read it to you. So hang with me here as I read from 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24. It says this: "Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like a man running aimlessly. I do not fight like a man beating the air. No, I beat my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize." So Paul here makes the application of physical athletic training to our spiritual walk. Now we know, for sure, we know that Olympians train hard. They go into strict training. But that training can compare to our life. And the question I asked myself is, how's my spiritual training? What self-disciplines am I putting into practice so that I can win the prize? The Olympic Games, we know, are the most famous games, and Paul knew of them. Of course, they've been around since 776 BC. But he was also talking to his audience about the Corinthian Isthmus Games, because those were the second most famous games, and the people in Corinth were training for those games. And he took that and he pivoted and he said, okay, Christians, how are you training spiritually? So I looked at my life and I thought, okay, Debbie, how are you training spiritually? Are you in strict training? Because I don't want to be disqualified. I want to be in training. I want to run to win the prize. So he gives us 5 points, and I want to point them out to you. Again, in that passage, When he says take the athletic training and apply it to your spiritual discipline, your spiritual training, number one, he says run to get the prize. In other words, run to be victorious. Plan your life, discipline your life to be victorious. Not to be a couch potato or a, oh, it doesn't matter, but to be victorious. So number one, run to get the prize. Number two, he says go into strict training. In other words, every area of your life should be strictly disciplined. Oh, Lord, I need help there. Number three, don't run aimlessly. In other words, in whatever you do, make sure you have a goal. Make sure you have a purpose. Are you just doing things without thought, or do you have a purpose and a goal? Number four, he says, don't punch the air. Well, we know there's actually value in shadow boxing. It builds muscles, but that's not what he's talking about. He's saying, don't be as one that's hitting at nothing. What are you striking at? Are you striking at trying to hit something? Do you actually have a goal? So those are the four main points. And then in the end, he ties it up to himself. He says, hey, I make my body my slave. In other words, I control my body. I control the desires of my flesh. I control the desires of my thinking. I control my body desires, and I bring my body desires in submission to the Holy Spirit. Paul said that. And as I evaluate my life and do a spiritual assessment at where I'm at, I go, wow, I need to get in some stricter training. I need to check my mindset. I need to check to see, am I being consistent? I need to check my self-control. How am I doing? I need to check my strengths and my weaknesses. What's my spiritual dedication to be spiritually trained? What's my spiritual disciplines? What's my spiritual determination? We're in a race here, and we need to be serious about it. So as I close with this challenge, I'm going to ask the same questions that the Apostle Paul asked and suggest that you do the same sort of assessment. Number one, are you in strict spiritual training? Are you living a spiritually disciplined life? Number two, are you running aimlessly? You don't have any spiritual goals. You don't have any spiritual purpose. Number three, are you just airboxing? You're just hitting at nothing spiritually. You're not even taking punches, or if you are, you got no goal, no purpose in mind. Number four, are you controlling your flesh? How are you doing on self-control? Say no to yourself. And then lastly, the whole thing that Paul wrapped it up with, he said, are you in danger of disqualification? Have you done something to break the rules of the race? Because he said, I don't want to be disqualified. I say, I don't want to be disqualified, and I'm sure you say, you don't want to be disqualified. So, evaluate, evaluate, evaluate. It's time to evaluate. Are we in strict training, or are we soft Christians? No spiritual muscle at all. Think about it. I want to run to win and be victorious. And I trust you do too. Go with God. Go get the crown.